Greetings, this is Sister Rebecca, aka Holly Hood, and today's presentation is Grand Theft Childhood. I'm going to give you the surprising truth about violent video games. If you're a parent, you definitely want to take notes, and especially if you allow your child or children to play video games. This is something that you really need to know about. Okay, here we go. Violence in video games. Today on Amazon.com, one of the most popular video games being sold is titled Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. In this game, players can take on the role of either a U.S. or British soldier who is sent to military hotspots to defeat the world's most dangerous enemies. Like other games in its genre, the images are nearly lifelike and the violence is very graphic. As the level of violence in video games has increased, so has concern for the effects on those who play, especially those who play a lot. Many are quick to point out that most school shootings in the recent years has been carried out by avid gamers. But it begs the question, which comes first? Can aggressive and violent behavior be attributed to violence in video games? Or do those who play already have violent tendencies which draw them to violent video games? We're going to explore that in this video. Though video games made their appearance in the 1970s, it wasn't until systems like the Sony PlayStation were released in the 1980s that violence became an issue. Along with these more sophisticated systems came the ability to make graphics more lifelike. The more lifelike they've become, the more interest there has been in the correlation between violent games and violent behavior. One of the many concerns with violence in video games is that gaming is not passive. In order to play and win, the player has to be the aggressor. Rather than watching violence as he might do on television, he's committing the violent acts. Most researchers acknowledge that this kind of active participation affects a person's thought patterns, at least in the short term. Another factor that concerns both researchers and parents is that violence in video games is often rewarded rather than punished. In army and sniper games, players level up. That means they go up to the next level based in part on how many people they've killed. If played frequently enough, games like this can skew a young person's perception of violence and its consequences. Not a good look.
Well, good evening, Pam. In the wake of the Connecticut school shootings, Vice President Joe Biden has been tasked with coming up with a way to curb gun violence, but he's remaining tight-lipped after a meeting Friday with game researchers. Today, I talked to a researcher who was there at that meeting. One of the topics that they tackled, violent video games. It's not often you get to indulge in your favorite pastime while at work.
It's a stress relief for me.
Little Rock resident Miguel Rocha works part-time at this gaming store in Little Rock. A longtime gamer, he's paid close attention to recent media coverage.
The game contains violence. It doesn't promote it in any way.
He's hearing claims the violent games he plays like Call of Duty could have contributed to the tragedies like the one in Newtown, Connecticut. Some argue the games are too graphic, give instructions on reloading weapons, appear more like an advertisement for weaponry.
It might have, as for how to use a weapon, as for whether the game told them to go shoot a school, I don't think that it would really.
USA Today reporting some of those who knew the alleged gunman in the Connecticut shootings, Adam Lanza, say he played the shooter game Call of Duty as well as PC strategy games StarCraft and Warcraft 3. And so it's part of the discussion Friday in Washington.
We know this is a complex problem. We know there's no single answer.
Vice President Biden, to give his recommendations to President Obama, expected Tuesday, wouldn't comment on what came out of those discussions, but this former Harvard researcher knows. She was at that meeting.
The stuff that you hear in the news about there is a definite link between video game violence and aggression, most of those are studies done by experimental psychologists in a lab setting with college students taking psychology classes.
Dr. Cheryl K. Olson published the book Grand Theft Childhood. Her research sampled more than 1,200 children. Dr. Olson said it reveals no link between aggression and violent video games.
There was more stuff on our survey about, did parents supervise you? Did you have a lot of stressful events in your life in the last year?
And in that sampling came children likely to bully others and those who display aggressive behavior. The store manager here tells me parents will often come and buy games like Grand Theft Auto for their young children. He'll warn them of the sexual content and the violence, but they say they see it on television anyway, so what's the difference? While her evidence shows no link, still, Dr. Olson says there's a need for caution.
If they know that they might be influenced by the game, then the guardian should not let that person play that game.
And Dr. Olson says she did make recommendations to Vice President Biden. One includes a rating on games where the blood would be green instead of red, making them further from reality. Meanwhile, I posted her entire interview online. Just go to today's THV.
First and foremost, I want to thank God for the great modern advances we've had in technology. We are living in an age now where everything is at the tip of our fingers, and we should learn how to use it but not abuse it. And I blame a lot of people who are hungry for money for the manufacturing of these games and without concern for the young children who might get their hands on it and be influenced by it. So I pray for them, I pray for the children, and most of all, I pray for the world. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Lord. The glory is not mine, but it is indeed yours.